ముందుగా ప్రియమైన విద్యార్థులకు మరియు వారి తల్లిదండ్రులకు నమస్కారం. నా పేరు కే వెంకన్న జూనియర్ కాలేజ్ చైర్మన్. నేను ఈ రోజు 10th క్లాస్ విద్యార్థులను దృష్టిలో పెట్టుకొని మాట్లాడడం జరుగుతుంది. అది ఏమిటనగా మనందరికీ తెలుసు, గత 2 సంవత్సరాలుగా కరోనా కారణంగా విద్యార్థులు ఎటువంటి పరీక్షలు రాయకుండానే పై తరగతులు పంపడం జరుగుతుంది. ఫలితంగా ఐఐటి జేఈ మరియు నీట్ లాంటి జాతీయ స్థాయి పరీక్షలను సాధించడం కష్టతరం అవుతుంది. దీనిని అధిగమించడానికి మరియు 10వ తరగతి పరీక్షలో అత్యధిక మార్కులు సాధించడానికి నేను మీ ముందుకు కే వెంకన్న జూనియర్ కాలేజ్ ప్లాట్ఫామ్ ద్వారా అనుభవజ్ఞులైన అధ్యాపకులచే ఉచిత వీడియో క్లాసులు, హ్యాండ్ రిటన్ నోట్స్ మరియు గత ప్రశ్నపత్రాల సమాధానాల విశ్లేషణ ఇవ్వబడును. కాబట్టి నేను విద్యార్థులకు చెప్పదలుచుకున్నది ఏంటంటే, ఈ ఉచిత వీడియో క్లాసులను మరియు హ్యాండ్ రిటన్ నోట్స్లను క్లాస్ రూమ్లో కూర్చొని చదువుకున్నంత సీరియస్గా చదువుకోవాలను. ఇంకొకటి ఏమిటనగా, ఈ యొక్క క్లాసులు విన్న వెంటనే అర్థం చేసుకొని ప్రాక్టీస్ చేయవలను. ప్రాక్టీస్ చేయడం అంటే కేవలం చదవడం కాదు, పేపర్ మీద రాయవలను. అలాగైతే గుర్తుండిపోతుంది. దీంతో పాటు మీ యొక్క నాలెడ్జ్ని పరీక్షించుకునే కొరకు త్వరలో ప్రీ ఫైనల్ పరీక్షలు కూడా నిర్వహించబడు. ఈ యొక్క అవకాశాన్ని సద్వినియోగం చేసుకోవాలని 10th చదివే విద్యార్థులకు విజ్ఞప్తి చేస్తున్నాను.
Now we'll see the first topic, that is introduction part to coordinate axis. Coordinate axis. What is this coordinate axis? Here I say this is the coordinate axis, that is, if we have x axis, y axis, negative x axis and the negative y axis. What is that coordinate axis? The coordinate plane, first point, the coordinate plane is created by two mutually perpendicular lines called x axis and y axis. So, the coordinate plane is created by two mutually perpendicular lines. These two are called as perpendicular lines because the angle is 90 here. So, these two are perpendicular lines, and these two lines are called as x axis. The horizontal line is called as x axis and the vertical line is called as y axis. The next point, the horizontal line is called as x axis. The vertical line is called as y axis. Now, the point of intersection of x axis and y axis is called as origin, which is denoted by origin. So, the point of intersection of x axis and y axis is called as origin, which is denoted by capital O. And this coordinate plane is having how many parts? 4 equal parts, which are called as quadrants. Means the coordinate axis divides the plane into 4 equal parts called as quadrants. So, this is called as first quadrant, this is called as second quadrant, this is called as third quadrant, this is called as fourth quadrant. Once again I am explaining you about the coordinate axis. Listen to me carefully. Coordinate axis. The coordinate plane is created by two mutually perpendicular lines which are called as x-axis and y-axis. మళ్ళీ చెప్తున్నానండి, కోఆర్డినేట్ ప్లేన్ అంటాం. ఎనీ టూ మ్యూచువల్లీ పర్పెండిక్యులర్ లైన్స్ ఇంటర్సెక్షన్ forms a coordinate plane. So, this part is called as first quadrant, this part is called as second quadrant, third quadrant and fourth quadrant. The horizontal line, ఈ లైన్ ఏదైతే ఉందో horizontal line is called as x-axis and vertical lines, ఇది vertical line అంటాం నన్ను, vertical line is called as y-axis. ఈ రెండు ఎక్కడ ఇంటర్సెక్ట్ అవుతున్నాయి? ఇక్కడ. దిస్ పాయింట్ వీ కాల్ ఇట్ యాజ్ ఆరిజిన్. Point of intersection of x-axis and y-axis called as origin, that is nothing but 0 comma 0. Then the coordinate axis divides the plane. ఒక plane ని ఎన్ని విధాలుగా డివైడ్ చేస్తున్నాము? 4 parts గా డివైడ్ చేస్తున్నాం. ఈ 4 parts ని ఏమంటాము? కోఆర్డినేట్స్ అంటాం. ఫస్ట్ క్వాడ్రంట్ ఏంటి? ఇది. సెకండ్ క్వాడ్రంట్ ఇది. థర్డ్ క్వాడ్రంట్ ఇది. ఫోర్త్ క్వాడ్రంట్ ఇది. సో దిస్ ఈజ్ అబౌట్ కోఆర్డినేట్ యాక్సిస్.
Hello students, myself Sunil Kumar Badal. I have done my BTech from IIT Kanpur. Here at K Venkanna classes, I teach chemistry. So, right now I know you all are busy with your board exam preparation. But let me ask you a question. Suppose you want to be a cricketer. Who would you choose your coach? A cricketer or a wrestler? Answer is definitely cricketer. So, in the same way here, we are the group of IITians, NITian and doctor. So, if you really want to crack or get a seat into IIT, NIT or any top medical colleges, come here and join us. What are you waiting for? Thank you.
Now, we will start with the second topic called as coordinates of a point. Let's suppose we got a point on the coordinate plane. Let's suppose this is a point some px comma y. So, here this point here in this px comma y be any point on the plane. Let this be any point on the plane. So, here x is called the x coordinate or the abscissa. What is that? X coordinate or abscissa. And here y is called as y coordinate or ordinate. So, here x is called as x coordinate or abscissa and the y is called as y coordinate or ordinate. This is any point. So, as I told you, this is the distance and this is the distance. So, this point becomes the x coordinate on the x axis and this point will become y point on the y axis. So, whatever the distance we have, this distance is x from where? From the y axis. So, x is the distance from the y axis, that we write as. So, for a given point, for any given point, for a given point, x coordinate is the distance from y axis. In the same way, y coordinate is the distance from x axis. Listen to me, మళ్ళీ చెప్తున్నానండి once again. So, this point is in the plane. It can be any point. Let's suppose I have taken that as x comma y. This x is a point on the x axis, y is a point on the y axis. ఇది ఎక్కడి నుంచి డిస్టెన్స్? ఇది x కోఆర్డినేట్. ఎక్కడి నుంచి డిస్టెన్స్? ఫ్రమ్ ద y axis. So, this distance is nothing but x. This x coordinate is the distance from the y axis and this is y and this is the distance from the x axis. That is what I have written. For any given point, x coordinate is the distance from the y axis and y coordinate is the distance from the x axis. Next, the abscissa. So, the same point, the abscissa of any point is its perpendicular distance from y axis. So what is that? As I told you, x coordinate is the distance from the y axis. In the same way, x is called as abscissa. Abscissa is the distance from where? From the y axis. That we term it as the abscissa is the perpendicular distance from the y axis. That is what I have written. The abscissa of any point is its perpendicular distance from the y axis. In the same way, the ordinate means y coordinate of any point is its perpendicular distance from x axis. So, in the same way, this is the perpendicular distance from the x axis, that is horizontal line. This is called as perpendicular distance or simply distance. This is called as perpendicular distance or simply distance from the y axis. This is the distance from the y axis, this is the distance from the x axis. Now, the abscissa of every point on the x coordinate will be x only, let us suppose that is x, and the ordinate of every point on the x axis will be always 0. Suppose this is the point. Here the abscissa of every point on the y axis will be always 0, and let us suppose the y coordinate on the y axis will be y. So, what I mean, the abscissa of every point on the y axis will be always 0, and the ordinate of every point on the x axis will be always 0. That I will write here. So, the abscissa of every point on the y axis is always 0, that is this point. Let us suppose this is y, as I told you, this distance is y, this is y, this is origin, this is x, and this is p, x comma y. So, this is the point. So, the abscissa of every point on the y axis is always 0, means this becomes 0 comma y, and this becomes x comma 0, that is this point x comma 0, means what is that 0 called as? Ordinate. The ordinate of every point on the x axis is always 0. Suppose I will be taking some point, let us suppose on the x axis like this. If I want to locate this point will become 2 comma 0, and if I want to locate this point will become 0 comma 3, means the abscissa of this point is 0 and the ordinate of this point is 0. That is what these 2 points mention about here. The next point, for any point on the coordinate plane the abscissa situated on the right side of the y axis is always positive. And listen to me, any point lying on the right side of the y axis will be always positive. So, here I got the coordinate plane again. So, here let us suppose I will be taking these points at equal intervals. So, these are called as positive values. The point always lying on the right side of the y axis will be always positive. Let us suppose this is point, it will be always positive. In the same way, on the left side it will be always negative. The abscissa, I am talking about abscissa, and the point and the ordinate and the point and the abscissa situated on the left side is always negative. So, here the point will be always negative, that is the abscissor will be always negative on the left side of the y axis and it will be positive on the right side of the y axis. Next, coming to the next point, as I told you, for the point on the x axis, it will be x comma 0, and for the point on the y axis, this will be 0 comma y. And coming to this one, any point lying above the x axis will be always positive like this, and this will be always negative, means I mean the ordinate of any point lying above the x axis is always positive, and situated below the x axis is always negative. So, the ordinate on the y axis, that is situated above the x axis, will be always positive, and below this it will be always negative.